Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to Fantasy Top 5. We give you fantasy news.
And we give it in a top 5 fashion.
We do in the top 5 fashion. It's welcome. It's a Thursday. It's a Thursday morning. We are
Nice
Fantasy
Thursday
Top 5.
evening.
Did I say morning?
Yeah, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Sun's starting to creep behind the mountains there.
Oh, yeah.
You can't see it, but
Oh, yeah.
neither can I because the blinds are closed. But I have a feeling that it is. And I'm Sean,
And I'm Eric.
and
We are your hosts.
we're actually a couple of stressed out hosts today.
Yeah, we found out some news. There's some rumors. We were checking it out, typing in NFL and pull up, and of course our podcast comes up on there because that's how we do.
Yeah.
And there's some trade rumors that
Yeah,
we
we
may
could be traded.
We could be traded. There were 3 things that it talked about. The number one was that we're underperforming.
Yeah, very underperforming.
You know, they brought us in here, thought we were going to do this awesome podcast. Turns out that we make a lot of mistakes, and there's even a thing that said our podcast on Monday was boring. What's up with that? I didn't think it was that boring. I mean,
It was pretty damn boring. I slept through most of it, but
I did too.
But that's the thing is, I wasn't that worried about it initially. I'm like, this at this time of year with the trade deadline approaching,
yeah,
like it
that's
is.
why
These kind of things come out, but then we
it.
find out this afternoon that Lane just got a big contract, and me and you
Yeah,
are
what's the deal with that? Our
kind
producer
of sitting
over
here
here
doing nothing. I don't
he
even
gets
know.
a huge contract. They apparently like him.
I signed myself for $1 million a day.
It's a pretty
like,
good deal.
Like I said, that's a lot better than almost anyone who's underperforming. Like Calvin Johnson, I don't even think is getting as much money as Lane, and he is underperforming
That's very true.
like crazy.
They also said that they might trade us for draft picks because we're getting too old. They might
Yeah.
want to get some young strapping young lads in here to do the podcast.
Yeah, so I think later this week we've signed up now. We're both looking to get a little bit of performance enhancing drugs, if you will. Gonna meet with this guy.
They do some testing for
Stark
that
Alley.
in the podcast league, but
Yeah, but I think we're gonna be able to get it under the radar.
I think we can get. But then we're also we might be safe because apparently other podcasts, apparently it seems like they don't want to take on our huge contracts. We make so much damn money doing this.
Yeah, really.
No,
and
we don't. We don't make.
and that does
anything.
help us out. And also with the
Don't make
performance
anything.
enhancing stuff, I feel like Lance Armstrong did it for so long. We can pull it off for at least a while. At least get our names out there so we can get signed to a different podcast if we do get cut. But that's neither here nor there, I guess. We should probably just move forward.
It's just rumors. It's just rumors. Well,
Hopefully
I think
just
we'll
rumors.
probably be here. I don't think we'll get the big contract, but so yeah, we're Fantasy Top 5. We do a fantasy podcast. We answer your fantasy questions. So if you have them, you can hop on to justin.tv/fantasy top 5 where we do a live show. You can also find us in iTunes, Stitcher, and all other podcast apps if you want to listen to us after the live show. You can ask us questions on Twitter at Fantasy Top 5, our website, fantasytop5.com.
Go vote on our poll.
We have a poll on our website, along with we post all of our information on there as well. So if you miss something, or if you just want to see it in a list,
You want
instead
to?
of,
Yeah, you can look at all the previous fantasy leaders from the weeks before this one, and also listen to all our other podcasts that we've had before this. So yeah,
we talk about starter sit, surprises, letdowns, injuries, news, all that. So we definitely give you a lot of fantasy information in our hour podcast, and it's always an hour before the Monday and Thursday night game. So get ready to watch the game. Sit down,
throw it
bring
on
up
while
the
you're cooking up the
podcast,
snacks and doing all that jazz before you
and
watch the game.
chat with us. Yeah, you probably have a few questions leading up to the game. So, and yeah. So we always start out with newses and bruises. That's our top 5 news stories and our top 5 injuries of the week. And like we said, everything is in top 5, so it's easy to get your information. Our number one, like we talked about on the intro, is the trade deadline rumors. There's quite a few of them.
Some crazy ones at that.
Yeah, and I'll kind of go through a few that they're talking about. That's because the deadline's coming up. None of these are confirmed. They're all just rumors. One talks about Greg Jennings maybe coming back after the surgery and going to the Rams. Another one is talking about Chris Johnson, CJ2K, or Steven Jackson to the Cardinals or to Green Bay. They talked about a Steven Jackson just trade straight across with Greg Jennings, which would be
actually awesome for the Rams because the Rams need a solid receiver.
and Green Bay needs a solid running back. So
Yeah, and the
would
thing
make
is,
Green Bay way too
Richardson
good,
has
though.
been. Would it though? Steven Jackson has been kind of underperforming.
that's true.
And they've been passing a decent amount. It's not like they're just running. So, and the Rams got to think about their future, I feel like. And it looks like at this point Richardson's it. Everything
Yeah,
I've
he
heard, it
looks
sounds
really
like Jackson won't be there next year no matter what.
Yeah, because he did have the chance to extend the contract, and I think they both kind of agreed not to. So it sounds like he may be out of here either way.
And that's the thing too is I think
Which
he
is-
loves the Rams, but I also think he's kind of like wants to go further than just a middle of the road team. And I think
And I think that's where they're
he
at.
thinks
which
he
is
can do
depressing,
that
but
with another team. So yeah,
I'd be sad to see him go. I'm a huge Rams fan, but if he does, I hope he goes somewhere where he can, really compete. I think there's quite a few teams. Green Bay would be an awesome one. I'd love to see him get a ring. He spent all that time just being the workhorse for the Rams when they were awful. I'd love to see him actually do something. Another one is Dwayne Bowe to the Dolphins, which everyone knows he wants out of Kansas City. So I think that'd be a good fit for him there. And then lots of Tebow everywhere. Tebow to
Yeah.
the Cardinals, Tebow to Jacksonville. But the team has said they're not trading Tebow, so
the thing is the only one that makes sense is Jacksonville. Like everyone has a quarterback, and I know we're kind of like Blaine Gabbert could evolve into someone, but he's kind of taken a couple steps back lately, and then he's hurt. And Tebow's from Jacksonville.
yeah.
I guess the Cardinals do kind of need a quarterback, but I think that throws off their whole thing they have going right now.
Yeah, it would definitely be weird. But I do think if they do keep Tebow, they should probably use him a little bit more than they do, but I don't know. They said they like Tebow, and actually Sperano said he wants to use him more, so. And the number 2 news story is according to a Forbes survey, Jay Cutler and Ndamukong Suh are the 2 least liked players in the NFL.
Which
Which is crazy because actually Ndamukong Suh just completely just did a WWF wrestling move on Cutler, which was absolutely crazy.
yeah.
But
Ndamukong Suh I think makes sense.
Yeah, he's
the
kinda-
Cutler thing is such
I don't know why people hate Cutler so
like
much.
literally it's
People
such
hate him.
bullshit. Like Cutler, he has a certain way about him, but I think a lot of it is a fire to win, and he's just that kind of guy. It's not so much he's an ass. Like he's
It's
an
just his
intense
attitude.
dude.
He has a weird attitude that people don't understand, and
But it's not going to change. That he's been that guy for years. He
Yeah,
always
he's
has.
well, it's weird because he gets fired up, but then he also acts like he doesn't care, and he acts like he's I don't know too cool, and so people just don't like his attitude, which I don't understand. I like the guy. I think he's funny. And the most liked players are Polamalu's of number 1, Breeze, Peyton Manning, RG3, and Gronk.
Wow, go out there. That is.
People
I would have
love
never
Gronk.
expected any of the top 5 players in the NFL to be picked there. It's like, hey, the main guy of all these teams that go to the playoffs every year. Would have thought, besides RG3, but RG3's the Cam Newton of this year. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
But I did like Gronk being in there. And then Sports Illustrated had a poll. There's apparently a lot of surveys, polls, and stuff like this. It was an NFL players poll, so the NFL players voted on it, and Tebow was ranked the most overrated player, along with Sanchez, who was the number 2. So apparently people hating the Jets. Romo, Vic, and Ray Lewis was number 5. I don't know why people think Ray Lewis is. I guess he's getting older, but
I don't think
I
people
don't think he's an overrated player.
Yeah, I don't think people look at him as a top 20 even defensive player. I think they just look at him as a solid guy who's at the end of his career and still performing at a
Yeah,
high
I don't
level.
understand.
Like he gets a lot of pub, but that's because he's an exciting guy. I don't think
He has a lot of commercials. You watch
Yeah.
it. I mean, he's in.
But that's the thing with that whole thing is I agree with a lot of it. Vic is trying his hardest to be overrated.
Yeah, he is.
Romo,
He really is.
I think, is a guy who gets all the negative and none of the positive. Like when the Cowboys do well, it's always someone else or their defense. And when they do bad, it's always Romo. No matter if Des Bryant doesn't run the right pattern, no matter if Ogletree drops not drops, but
Tip a pass
bounces
and
the
it
ball in the
gets
air.
picked.
Yeah, it's just he's one of those guys. Sanchez is another guy who look at what the Jets have had at receiver. He did awesome last year. He led them to being one of the top teams in the red zone. With all he really had was Plexico Burress in the end zone because Holmes did basically nothing last year. And so I don't get it. The main one though that you mentioned is Tebow, and I do agree with that. Like Tebow has been figured out. Like anyone who makes any kind of blockbuster trade for him, I think is an idiot right now. I understand he brings a lot of positive publicity, but other than that, I don't think he has. He's a talented football player, but he's not a talented quarterback, and he wants to play quarterback, so that makes him not a talented NFL player.
I do have to agree. I think I would definitely say that he is the number 1 overrated player. My number 4 is a few quick injury reports that, even though we do an injury report later, these are kind of the big ones. Jennings decides on surgery and hopes to come back this year. So Greg Jennings is definitely going to miss some time, possibly. I mean, if you have him, yeah, he may not even be back till the end of the season, if at all. Nate Burleson has a broken leg, and he's done for the year.
And that's huge because Titus Young has underperformed there.
Yes.
And Burleson has came alive this year, so that just sucks for
He's
him.
always kind of has, but just never kind of broke through.
Yeah.
And the last one is Danny Amendola returns to practice this week.
Yeah, really. Like that's, but he's a tough guy. Everyone knows that.
Yes.
That's kind of his MO. So I like that. I don't think he's going to play this week or anything, but I think it's big for them that he's trying to get out there.
Well, they have their bye, so I think you can probably expect him back. Not this week.
Week 10.
Yeah, and I think that's when he'll be back, which will be absolutely crazy. So if you kept on to him, if you
held on to him.
there we go, or if you can pick him up and stash him, you may be safe for a little bit longer since they have their bye. But and then number 5, which is a pretty awesome story. Seattle Seahawks cornerback Richard Sherman, that's the same one that got all up in Brady's face and tweeted out and everything, gave himself a new nickname, Optimus Prime.
I like that.
I love when people give themselves nicknames. And apparently...
Is it because he's going up against Megatron this weekend? Is that why?
guess so.
Because either way, I like it, but I like it more if he changed his whole nickname for 1 week that he's going to be going up against Calvin Johnson, or Megatron, I guess, if you will. That is awesome. Seahawks are that team right now. They're just they're all over it, and I dig that.
I do too. So the bruises we'll go through really quick. Trent Richardson has been practicing. He of course wants to start, but like a lot of football players, like Amendola, wants to start every week no matter what. So it looks like he will be out there, but that's the same thing that happened last week. He was out there, and anyone who played him knows he didn't get very many points.
Yeah, he's a
2
hard
weeks in
play
a row
this,
now.
This year, not this year, this week, because
It's
who
hard.
knows? And that's the thing too, is they're going up against San Diego, and San Diego has the number 1 run defense in the league.
Wow.
So, like, you wouldn't expect it because of how much of a joke they've looked, but they have a great run defense. So,
Yeah, and so if you have him, and I have him, I don't know what to do. It's him or Steven Jackson, so not looking too good there. Rashard Mendenhall hasn't practiced, didn't practice yesterday or today. Doesn't look like he's going to play, which is also one of my other backups. Maurice Jones-Drew looks like he's going to miss multiple games with a sprained foot, so he will be out. But Blaine Gabbert looks like he's going to be back, so that's
which
good.
is good, because that's the thing is, even if you don't like Gabbert, and you're a Jacksonville fan, you have to, after watching their game last week against the Raiders,
Penny?
Henne is, I don't even know. I really think that they should trade him to the Arena League or something, and before the trade deadline, he looked bad, like really bad.
Yeah, he's not a very good quarterback. He wasn't very good in Miami either.
Yeah.
Jimmy Graham practiced yesterday, and looks like he'll probably come back.
It's hard with him because he's a Sunday night game,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that if he's going to play, you want every opportunity to play him, but if he doesn't know by Sunday morning, you might have to play someone in place of him, and that sucks.
Yeah, who else is there at that point? I don't have the list of games up in front of me right now.
Oh.
But, yeah, so that's kind of... I mean, if he's there, you want to play him. I mean, he is, in a lot of people's mind, the number 1 tight end in the league.
If he stays hurt for a couple more weeks, maybe not, but he basically is. And that's the thing is, you could play Kyle Rudolph tonight, but I actually had this dilemma with my wife last night. She had Kyle Rudolph, and Rudolph didn't play great last week.
No, he didn't.
And he's no Jimmy Graham. And there's so many tight ends out there still. Most people don't even carry 2 tight ends. So it's one of those things that's like you should drop him and pick up someone else that's going to play later.
You have Denver, which neither of the 2 tight ends in Denver have really done a lot, but there are 2 of them there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Tammy was going to be great this year. I was really high on him. Hasn't really
I like
done
Keller.
anything.
Keller's back, and Keller is going to be Sanchez's main target, I think. Well, one of his main targets since Holmes is out. And he did great last week.
And then who else? It's Joel Dreesen, right? That's Denver, because that's the Sunday night. And then if you go to Monday, you have Arizona.
Oh, I see what you're...
and San Francisco.
You're looking at the
Vernon
later
Davis
games,
is-
yeah.
So if you do end up not trading, who can you play? And you might be able to throw in one of those Denver. I mean, it's going to be a blowout by Denver, so maybe Tammy or Dreesen. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on it. We kind of got really off topic.
Yeah.
And my number 5 is Pierre Garçon. He's kind of had the choice. He's been out for a while. It's rest or surgery, and he decided to choose rest. So he's not going to have surgery done, and there's no timetable for his return. So
It's like a tear in his foot too. Like,
Yeah.
that's the thing is he's Pierre Garçon. Like, this is what you get with the guy. He gets hurt. He always has. He manages to be hurt for at least half the season and have a couple huge games.
couple
in there.
huge games.
So you can't help but want to have him on your team.
and then bad games as well when he's
Yeah.
not injured. He has bad games, good games, and injured.
But the good games are so good every time.
Yeah, this is how he was last year, and every year. So there we go. Newses and
Yeah,
bruises.
that's- All right, and then now we're going to move over to the top 5 drop-offs and bounce-backs. And my number 1 drop-off of the week is actually playing in tonight's game, and that is Josh Freeman. Josh Freeman has had an insane last 2 weeks, but he's had a pretty solid last 3 weeks. And I think for the most part, everyone has considered the Buccaneers more of a running team. They're going to not run up the score on you. They're going to not pass a whole lot. But he has thrown for over 1,000 yards in the last 3 games with 7 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. And he's looked great. And with the help of V-Jack being on the team now, and then him being the number 1 guy has helped Mike Williams. And then Dallas Clark finally is looking like he might be part of the team. So they have looked great the last couple weeks. But I think going up against the Vikings defense, which is, I think people are still downplaying how good they are.
Yeah.
But they have been great this
Freeman
season
has-
so far. And Freeman,
He's looked really good the last
Yeah.
few weeks.
He's
You know,
taken
20 over 20-point games
uh-huh.
back to back, and
He had 400 yards in the last game. Like,
it's hard not to want to
insane.
play him. But at the same time, he still hasn't. I mean, he's never proven to be that quarterback that you can count on.
Mhm.
So if you played him last week and you're kind of wondering, maybe in a bye situation, if you should play him again, like you said, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you don't expect what he's been doing.
Yeah, if you have a more consistent guy, I would definitely play. Because that's the thing is, Freeman wasn't drafted top 12, and in any league, I would assume he was not one of the top 12 quarterbacks. So
But he has looked good.
there should be someone you can play over him. So if you have someone that has a better matchup, I wouldn't think twice about it. I think this will be the first week he's seen in over a month without 15 points as a fantasy guy. So yeah, I wouldn't play him tonight. And then my second drop-off of the week is one that I'm probably going to get a lot of criticism about, but I have a good feeling about it. I think at the end of the day, Sunday, people are going to be like, yeah, you knew, you were right. But that's the Atlanta Falcons, who have been the hottest team in the NFL this season. Matt Ryan is finally looking like he's turning into that elite guy. He's
Yeah.
going from being that guy who's consistent, doesn't make a lot of mistakes, to that guy who is a big play guy, who has proven, like against the Panthers earlier in the season, that he can lead that game-winning drive and make and that was nearly a miracle. That's as close as a miracle you get without Tebow being involved last year. So he's looked great. The receivers are looking better. Tony Gonzalez is looking like
Even
it was
Turner's looked
like it
good.
was like 7 years ago. Turner's even looked pretty good. Rogers,
crazy.
their backup running back, when Turner's looked bad, he's came in and looked good.
Yeah.
But this week they're going up against the Eagles, coming off a bye. Andy Reid has I didn't put the actual stat in here, but he is known for coming out and just destroying people off of a bye week. He rarely loses after the bye week. So I think he's going to come out. The Eagles are under a lot of scrutiny right now. I think they're
Yeah,
coming
they
out
are.
with a point to prove, and I think they're going to get it done this Sunday. I think this is the first loss the Falcons are going to receive this year.
Nice.
So,
That'll be
yeah.
crazy if the Eagles beat them. I picked up their defense. I hope not, but
Oh, Atlanta's defense?
yeah.
Even if they beat them, I'm sure Vic finds ways to do turnovers and then still do well. So I think it'll be a crazy game. But my third drop-off of the week is the Broncos defense. And the Broncos
I agree with this
defense
one.
looked insane against the Chargers on Monday Night Football 2 weeks ago. They came out, they took the ball away from Phillip Rivers on 6 different occasions. I don't know. Yeah, he threw 4 interceptions, and I actually don't know if the 2 fumbles were both him, but I know at least one of them was, and he just awful.
Yeah,
And-
they're averaging like a crazy amount of points. The Denver defense is averaging like 11 points a game. So they're one of
Yeah.
the top defenses.
But if
in-
you look at their stat line, all of that comes off of just a couple games. For the most part, they've had like 2 or 3 really good games. They had a great game against the Raiders, a great game against the Chargers. In division, I guess they've had great games. But I think Drew Brees is going to show
Yeah,
him what a
there's-
real quarterback who used to play in San Diego is like, and he's going to come out and just throw all over them.
yeah, he is. This
And
one's going to be
This
quite
one's going to be a
shootout.
75-70 game. Not really, but I think it's going to be both teams are going to be in the 30s at the end of this one, I think. And then moving to my fourth
Wouldn't mind
drop
that.
off. Yeah, it'd be good for fantasy. But yeah, my fourth drop off of the week is going to be LaRod Stevens-Howling, who
another good one.
yeah, he had probably one of the best games of his career last week against
Yeah,
the
he
Vikings.
looked-
At least his best game of the season so far. He had over 100 yards rushing. He had almost 50 yards receiving. He had a touchdown, and he looked good. And the Vikings we've been talking about, they have a very good defense. But I think it's another one of those cases where they just weren't focusing on him 100%. They were more like they don't have a running game. They keep getting injured. Powell isn't doing well. Stevens-Howling was kind of an afterthought in a lot of people's minds, I think. And then he came out and he looked great. But I think this week, going up against the 49ers defense, I just don't think he's going to do as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I was down on all Cardinals receivers last week, and I am again. But
Yeah, it's hard to
he did
It's
show
hard to
something.
know
Yeah,
what
I
to
didn't think he was
expect
going to do
from-
good last week either.
yeah from people going up against the 49ers. It's hard to know what to expect because 49ers
Yeah,
have such a
'cause-
tough D. So yeah, I don't think if you have Stevens-Howling, you probably have him for a reason.
But you're probably
so
in a
you're
deep
probably
league.
going to have to play him. So good luck with that, basically. If you can't pick someone else up, do it. But yeah,
I
think-
would. I
yeah.
wouldn't
And then-
rely on him having another game like that, 20-point game.
Yeah, and then my number 5 drop off of the week is Santana Moss, who had
I agree with almost all of these.
Yeah, who had a great game last week. He had 67 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that's the thing, he only caught 3 passes. He just kind of got 2 broken plays that he was able to take for touchdowns. So it's not like RG3's looking at him a lot. And people are all about Santana Moss this week, and I think a lot of that is Garcon being injured.
Yeah.
But you got to realize a lot of that offense is just RG3 and Alfred Morris right now. Like, Alfred Morris is running and catching out of the backfield, and
Yes,
RG3
he
is
is.
making stuff happen. And I don't think Santana Moss is even in his mind as the guy he has to go to all the time. And a lot of people are buying into the hype, and I don't get me wrong, in a couple weeks I might be saying, or Eric might be saying, pick up Santana Moss. You might have a couple more games, but I wouldn't bet all my money on Santana Moss right now. Like, if you want to, pick him up, but I wouldn't put him in your starting lineup this week and just assume he's going to do well.
He's in my starts, actually. No, he's not.
Yeah. And we all
No, he's
watched
not.
how
He actually wasn't even in my pickups.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did write him in and then immediately erased it and
Yeah,
put him
and-
with someone else.
Good. It's smart of you. And then also with that, he's going up against the Steelers this week, and we all saw last week, all the AJ Green owners saw that if the Steelers know that you're going to go to a guy, they can make him disappear.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And that's what they did that week, and I don't think Santana Moss is anywhere near AJ Green. So yeah, I just wouldn't fall into that mistake of thinking he's going to be awesome. It's not 5 years ago. All right.
I agree.
Awesome. Eric's on the same page
I
as me,
am.
which is
I
nice.
am. We are in agreement.
All right, and then the bounce backs I have this week, I hate to do it, but this is what he does. And it's Phillip Rivers, who had one of the worst games I've ever seen a quarterback play against the Broncos 2 weeks ago. And we kind of already
last week
talked
he
about
scored
this.
nothing
Yeah, last
on
week
a
he did
bye week.
awful.
I don't
on a bye
what-
week.
I don't know what's wrong with him.
But that was almost an improvement. Like, it was like he threw for 241 yards. He did have 2 touchdowns, but he had 4 interceptions. And the thing is with this, the impressive thing about it is they had a 24-point lead at one point in this game. And normally people, when they have games where they throw 4 interceptions, it's because they're trying to dig themselves out of a hole. They're trying to make some kind of crazy comeback with their team. No, he was up 24 points, and he just fell apart. He threw 2 pick sixes in the game. Like, it's just like really, it's like, who the hell are you? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Phillip Rivers gets traded, because I don't get me wrong, I don't really think that'll happen, but That team
Yeah,
needs
I
to
don't
do
either.
something. North Turner, for one, needs to be gone. And then Phillip Rivers needs to be held in check. I see all these articles all the time. It's like, Phillip Rivers will not go conservative and stuff. And that's the thing is,
People love the guy.
you're a
and I-
coach. Like, you're a coach. You coach him. You tell him you have to go conservative. We have a 24-point lead. We have Ryan Matthews, who was a really
looked really
good running
good.
back. And he's like, no, I'm going to pass it to the Denver guys. So it's just, Phillip
I
Rivers
live
is a joke.
dangerously. I'm Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, he likes to take the path less traveled. He's like, a lot of guys like to come out and they like to win when they're up 24. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to lose. Let's just throw it out there.
Yeah, he doesn't like to go along with everyone else. Seems like everyone in this game likes to win.
It's not a sheep.
Phillip Rivers doesn't want to go along with
He's a
that.
damn follower. No, he isn't. He's a leader. He gets out there and he leads. Leader of the pack.
He leads them to a loss.
Yeah, he does. All right. Well, that's enough Phillip Rivers right now. But
If you say so.
yeah, but just like I'm saying, and that's the thing is, you'll see after this week, he's going to be back to, he did good. He did great against the
people
Browns, like every other person has done against the Browns. He's such a great quarterback, and then he'll choke his ass off again. They'll be like, oh my gosh, who would expect this out of Phillip Rivers? Who would expect this out of Brady's love child, Phillip Rivers? Like, that's really what they do, and it's insane to me. But yeah, Phillip Rivers, good week this week, but then, I don't know, bad
We're
week
going to
next
finish
week.
the whole podcast with Phillip Rivers. You
Yeah.
can just ignore everything that you're...
Yeah. All right, but number 2, my second bounce back of the week, and I kind of mentioned this on Monday's podcast, is Darren McFadden,
I remember that.
who has only had 100-yard games so far this season, and he's been one of the biggest letdowns for people because everyone expected him to be a top 5 running back,
As much as
especially
we
if he
talked
stayed
him up
healthy.
in the preseason. We
Yeah.
talked this guy up. He was on a pedestal.
Yeah, and that's the thing is I think he just hasn't been able to get in the groove, and I think he needs a big game to do that. But that's the thing is the Chiefs' running defense has been nothing short of terrible. So if he can't come out and run on them and get at least 100 yards and a touchdown and finally pay off for some of those fantasy owners, then I think you got to look into trading him. Like if he doesn't bounce back now, when it's almost halfway through the season, like when are these people gonna finally do what they've do as well as they should be for where they were drafted?
It's
Like
my whole team. My whole team is all these people that should do amazing that haven't. That's why I've lost 3 weeks in a row.
yeah, and that's how it is.
McFadden,
It's like
Calvin Johnson.
if you said you had McFadden and Calvin Johnson and Brandon Lloyd on your team, like
I have
you
all
do,
3 of those.
it would be like, how is he not number 1? And it's because all 3 of those guys are being a huge letdown. Like, and that's the thing is McFadden, I love the guy, but if he doesn't have a good week this week, I don't know when the hell he's gonna have a good week. So I'm out of options after this. If you can't do good against the Chiefs defense, well, rushing defense anyways, you just can't do good. All right, and then my third bounce back of this week 8 is Mike Wallace, who normally is a very sure-handed, reliable receiver. That just wasn't the case last Sunday against the Bengals. Like he just looked bad out there. He was dropping a lot of passes, and he just never seemed to get in a groove. But this week he's going up against the Redskins, and the Redskins
We're not good against
I don't know
the
if you
pass.
remember last week, they had the game in hand, and then Cruz I was actually down on earlier, but he's turned it into quite a season. He's doing well again, and that's awesome. But
Yeah, he's looked really good.
but yeah, Mike Wallace, I think he's going up against a terrible passing defense like the Redskins have. I think he's going to come out and I think he's going to have a huge game. And that's the thing is their specialty is giving up huge plays, and Wallace will take advantage of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look for him to have a great game. I would say
Unless they learned their lesson with the Cruz thing.
they did it.
They have talked about how
they're-
Eli didn't see anything special. Because Eli went out and he said something. I was going to throw this in my news that he saw what they did because they had done a 2-minute drill earlier and they did the same play.
Yeah, and
that-
Hall was like, "Oh no, we just messed up."
He's
that's
like,
the
I
thing.
gave it to him.
He
Actually,
always
we
does
gave
that.
it to him. Like, Eli didn't see shit. No, I didn't
That's
really say
always
that, but-
his thing, though. He's like, it wasn't their fault. It was my fault. It's like, everyone knows it was your fault. You have so much talent. You were just such an awful cornerback. Like, every week, he's like, I don't even know. They're terrible. It's like, okay, calm down. But then he'll pick 4 passes from Cutler on occasion. He's that guy.
Yeah, he does.
All right, but my fourth bounce back of the week is Hakeem Nicks, who has been hurt
Nice.
most of the season. I felt bad. I love
Been
Nicks.
good for Knicks owners.
Yeah, and I went out there and I looked at his stat line. I was like, I didn't realize it, but he has missed 4 games. Like, that
Wow.
is insane to me. And he just, and he's played the last 2 weeks, but everyone who's been paying close attention to it knows he's been playing through injury. He's just out there almost as a decoy to help Cruz and help the other guys. And I think he's going to come out and in a big in-division rivalry week like this against the Cowboys, who came out and won them in their house or the opening game of the season. I think he's going to come out and I think he's going to have a big game. I think he's going to show them the Knicks of old, and I think he's a lot closer to 100%. And I think they're going to get them back for winning them in New York. I think they're going to go out and have a great game against the Cowboys in Dallas. All right, and then speaking of that game, my 5th bounce back of the week is kind of a little crazy, but it's Philip Tanner, who is the Cowboys' 3rd string running back, and he hasn't had a whole lot of chances to play in his short 2-year career, but he, with Murray out and with Felix Jones, he's not 100%, and Felix Jones at 100% is likely as hell to get voted in high school in the yearbook. You can look it up if you can find Felix Jones' yearbook. Most likely to get your ass hurt on any given football play. He's in there. So if you look it up, it's literally in there. And so even at 100%, I would expect Jones to get hurt at least twice in a game. So I think Tanner has a really good shot of getting a lot of plays. And he may even start. Like, no one has said Felix Jones is 100% or is for sure playing this week. So I would look for him to have a decent game. Every team has to at least go to their second string guy. And Tanner's their second string guy now that Murray's hurt. So I'd expect him to get some work. And I don't know that he'll have a huge game, but if you're looking for a guy to replace MJD and someone already has Rashard Jennings,
Yeah.
then
This
pick
might be a guy.
him up. Like, there's not a lot of guys out there right now, especially if you're in a deep league. So I would take
Yeah.
a shot on him in a heartbeat. All right, yeah, that's my top 5 drop-offs
Nice.
and bounce backs.
That's good. I like that. I'm not sure who he is. So we'll move over to my segment here. And you know what I haven't done in a while, Sean?
What have you not done?
I haven't switched up my segments. And so you know what I'm doing?
Oh, classic switch up.
I'm switching up my segments.
Lane, you ready for this? Switch up. We got to switch up.
For a while there was every week. It was every single week I was switching up, and I held off for a while, and then I got bored. So start or sit are now going to be called start up, sit down, and a new one I've added to the end here is called in a pinch. That's the name I decided to go with.
In a pinch.
So we have the starts, sits, and the people you can play. Sean actually threw out a good one there that I don't have. That if you really need someone, you're in a pinch, you need to start someone, you can go ahead and probably find these guys and throw them in. So my number 1 startup is Peyton Manning. It's a pretty obvious one, I feel like. I usually try to go a little bold with these. Not today. But I am going to make a bold prediction that he's the number 1 quarterback. When you
Of the week.
I had to go bold with something, so I went with that one. So I think this week against the New Orleans Saints, awful defense, I think he is going to be better than Breeze. I think Breeze is the only guy that I think...
1 and 2. That game's the 1 and 2 quarterback this week.
I agree. And I think Peyton Manning will be number 1. And so that's where I went bold with it. My
I
number
guess, but
2
whoa. You just barely went over. Blaine Gabbert's coming back, so actually they're battling for second.
I'm going to
quarterback.
change that, actually. Yeah. Bold prediction, number 2, behind Blaine Gabbert. That's actually way more bold, actually, if I did that. My number 2 is Darren McFadden against Kansas City. And Sean actually mentioned it earlier. A lot of times we're on the exact same page because we don't actually look at each other's notes beforehand.
Yeah, we try not to see each other other than just when we're doing the podcast.
Yeah, we used to trade notes, but then we do this kind of thing where I'm like, oh, well, he already has McFadden, so I better... And then...
And it just makes it more confusing.
Yeah, and so
Just
and
if we
sometimes
both mention a
disagree.
guy, you should know that that's the guy you should play.
And if we disagree on a guy, listen to me. No, I'm just kidding. Listen to whoever gave you a better...
Advice.
better advice. So, yeah, we both think Darren McFadden will finally have a Darren McFadden day. We think he'll finally bounce back and look like the running back you drafted in a very early round. My number 3 is Antonio Brown. He has Mike Wallace. I think either one. I think they're both going to have good games. Washington is giving up the most points to wide receivers. And they're not very good against them, as anyone who watched the game saw that Cruz just smoked them. My number 4 is Heath Miller, which I put Heath Miller in here a lot, and he's had pretty good games. He's looking like a while back we said that he is one of
He's a top 5 guy.
yeah, and it looks like he's going to be. Ben Roethlisberger said he wants to get him to the Pro Bowl, even though they may actually cancel that. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard
They might
that.
get rid of the Pro Bowl unless people step the game
It
up.
makes sense. If you watched any of it last year, they're like, here's a Pro Bowl tackle.
They don't want to get injured.
Yeah, no, and I get that. And that's the thing is it's not basketball, it's not baseball. There's
And
contact
they cut out
every
a lot of
play.
You can't do a lot of plays. You only
Yeah,
have
it's like, don't hit the quarterback.
a
Gently
handful.
tackle everyone else. Like it's just
And there's always 1 or 2 players out there that are just ripping people apart. And it's
Yeah.
like, dude.
and then they get
calm
mad at
down.
them like you can't hit. Hey, Whedon, quit killing people out there. Like really.
But so Heath Miller has a really good
I
matchup.
meant Weddle, by the way. I meant Weddle.
Oh yeah,
I said
that
Whedon,
makes
but I
more
meant
sense.
Weddle. Yeah, I know.
That makes
I could
a lot more
I
sense.
could
That's
feel
like-
you looking at me like,
I did kind of.
why the hell's the quarterback out there killing people, Sean?
Maybe you knew something I didn't, but yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Eric Weddle's a beast. He's from Utah. What was I talking about? Heath Miller. So yeah, he has a really good matchup again. He seems to have great matchups a lot anymore, and go ahead and play him. He's had some good games. And my number 5, which this is one that we disagree on, I put the Falcons D against Philadelphia. Philadelphia is allowing the 3rd most points to opposing defenses.
That's the thing is I don't necessarily disagree with you on it. Like Michael Vick still will probably throw at least an interception and probably a fumble in the game. And that's not even trying to be hard on him, just the style of play.
That's just
and
how
their
Vick
line
is.
hasn't been blocking super well. So they could still they could lose and still end up putting up over 10 points. Like that's happened. Both the Bears and the Lions were top 10 defenses last week. So it happens.
And it definitely could. They're averaging 12 points to opposing defenses, so that's the average defense gets 12 points against the Eagles, and I think Arizona's a pretty good, or Atlanta is a pretty good defense. So I picked him up. I'm going to play him. I hope the defense does well. My sit-downs this week, my number 1 is Cam Newton against Chicago. I'm actually starting Whedon ahead of Cam Newton this week.
I don't blame you. Chicago's D has been
Chicago's
awesome.
D is insane.
And Cam Newton has eased his way into a steady sophomore slump.
I think
I'd actually like to see that suggestion box so I can tell him, suggestion, step your game up.
That's it. That's the only suggestion.
Yeah.
Step your game up. But no, Chicago is the best defense. They're only allowing 8.8 points. I couldn't read that on average to opposing quarterbacks. So I mean, it's quite brutal.
Yeah, they've been good.
And Cam Newton hasn't really looked that great, but I think after this week, I really do think you can go ahead and play him with confidence. He has a really nice schedule that eases up after this, where he plays Washington. He's going to play. I looked it up. I can't remember. He plays a lot. He has a lot of good matchups. So towards the end of the year, Cam Newton will go. You can go ahead and play him. But this week, I would go ahead and sit him. Like I said, I'm playing Whedon over him. So Whedon has a pretty good matchup. My number 2 is Sean Green against Miami. Miami hasn't been as good as they were with their run defense. Start of the year, they were insane.
They're still very good, though.
But they're still really good.
And they're coming off a bye.
And Sean Green's really bad.
And they're in the hunt in that division's the biggest thing. I can't remember the last time Miami was legitimately in the hunt. So I think they're going to be jacked to come out and win. Because the Jets also came out and almost should have won the Patriots last week. And so I think they're going to be ready to come out and be like, yeah, they almost won the Patriots, but they didn't win us. And that shows we're just as good a team and just kind of prove a point.
Yeah, I think a few of these players, like Sean Green, and I think Turner, I think a lot of these players that have looked good that we don't really like, will go back to looking bad, and we can act like we're right because we don't like them.
Yeah.
My number 3 is Brandon Lloyd. And the Rams have a really good defense. Their 2 cornerbacks are insanely
Mainly their
good.
pass defense, yeah.
And yeah, they have their pass defenses look great.
And Brandon Lloyd and Tom Brady simply
They're
have not
not.
gotten on the same page.
No, at all. And so if you have Brandon Lloyd, I don't even know if you can trade him at this point. It's the thing that's brutal. I tried to get Sean to trade me earlier before the podcast started. He said no,
Yeah.
and then hit me.
I didn't hit him.
So don't try
There's
to
no
trade
evidence.
him. Don't try to trade because you'll probably get hit.
Hard.
So if you, I would just not play him, and then just maybe drop him. Amendola's coming back. Maybe pick up him. My number 4 is Jared Cook, who actually hasn't been awful. He's actually looked pretty good this year. He's kind of been one of those, if you need a tight end, you can put him in there. But Indiana is the best defense against tight ends, allowing the fewest fantasy points, which is,
It's just random.
I know, it's such a random stat. It's like,
Usually, if you have good enough linebackers to cover tight ends solid, you have good enough linebackers to stop the run, but that's just not the case
3
there.
points. They're averaging
weird.
3 points to opposing tight ends. So I don't know what it is. I didn't really look into why they're so good at it. But at the same time, Jared Cook hasn't been great enough that you'd start him anyway. So, and my number 5 is the Steelers D. I think against Washington, I think the Steelers, like we talked about on Monday, I think they've kind of lost it. They don't look like the same defense they have. But and then I think Washington, RG3 is just too good.
He will be in every single game he plays.
You don't want to play most defenses against RG3.
Yeah.
So he knows how to put up points, and the Steelers D are not a very good play when there's other defenses out there. And then we'll go through my top 5, which are in a pinch. These are a little bit less known players that I think don't say if one of these and you play him and he has an awful game. These are kind of more players that you're kind of taking a shot on. They're not proven. My number 1 is Carson Palmer against Kansas City. They're giving up the 7th most fantasy points to quarterbacks at almost 20 a game. So I think Carson Palmer could go out and get you a good game if you need someone. Alex Green, this one's kind of iffy, but the Jacksonville's been giving up the 3rd most points to running backs, and he still has the starting gig there in Green Bay, which is kind of crazy. So
That is crazy.
yeah, because he hasn't really looked great, but my number 3 is Josh Gordon, who I actually am putting him in over Brandon Lloyd. So I'm kind of doing a lot of this where I'm playing a player that you wouldn't normally think over a player that's been awful, but
Gordon has looked better and better with every week. So, yeah, I can't disagree with you there.
yeah, and San Diego is giving up the 6th most fantasy points to wide receivers, so he should have a good game. My number 4 is Dallas Clark if you need a tight end against Minnesota. They're surprisingly not that good against tight ends. They give up the 7th most points, and Freeman should get him the ball, I would imagine. And my number 5 is the Oakland Raiders defense against Kansas City. So if you need a defense and you don't have anyone else, I might even pick him up and play him because I really need a defense with Houston and Baltimore out. But with Quinn starting and Bo not wanting to be a part of that team at all, I do not see them putting up a lot of points. Jamal Charles is really the only thing that could even put up points, and I'm pretty sure the Raiders will probably know.
Yeah, I think they'll have a good idea.
That's about all you got. You got
That's the
an
thing is
awful
Jamal
quarterback.
Charles is special, so he might do okay, but I don't see him getting 4 touchdowns and completely destroying a defense. So, yeah, I agree with you. Not
So if
a
you
bad
need a defense in
call.
a pinch, I like this because I think this helps players a lot more than my starter sit is like, okay, well, I don't have any of those guys, but so-and-so does, so whatever. That doesn't really help me. But these in a pinch guys, you can get most of these guys. You can pick most of them up off the waiver, especially if you're in a not a very deep league. If you're in
Yeah.
a shallow league, 8-team, you can definitely probably pick up all of them. So there you go.
All right, awesome. All right, now we're going to move on to our top 5 games of Week 8. And the first game is a game that's going to start in about close to a half hour here probably. And that is the Buccaneers at the Vikings. And this is actually a game that at the beginning of the season I don't think a lot of people would have been too excited about. But I'm actually stoked about it. The Buccaneers and the Vikings are 2 of the funnest teams to watch right now.
Yeah.
They're both way overperforming considering where people thought they would be at the beginning of the season.
It's true.
And yeah, it's been Vikings D has been awesome, and their offense has actually been okay at times. Like Ponder's still figuring it out. He's had a couple big games, but he's had a couple bad games too. And then AP is just AP. He's looked awesome. But that's the thing too is Doug Martin has been pretty good on the other side for the Buccaneers, and this is 2 really tough run defenses and 2 pretty. That's the thing is the Buccaneers do have a weakness on the passing side. They have less, and people put up some good numbers on them. So I think it'll be an exciting game, and I don't know. But I think on this, I'm going to take the Vikings to win. I think the Vikings are just a little bit better. They've been playing awesome, but I don't know. The Buccaneers could surprise me, but I'm going to take the Vikings at home.
Yeah, this should be a good one. This is a hard. I don't know who I'm going to exactly pick. I think Vikings have the better defense. So in my head, I want to go Vikings, but I'd like to see another big game out of Josh Freeman. I'm going to go Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. What do you think, Lane?
Bucks are my boys. Got to go with the Bucks.
All right. Moving on to
Excited for this
the
game.
second game of the week is the Falcons at the Eagles. And I already talked about this. I think the Eagles coming off a bye at home are going to have a great game. I think they're going to come out and I think they're going to make it so there's no undefeated teams in the league. So I am going to take the Eagles on this. What are your thoughts on this game, Eric?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I do. I like the Eagles a lot. I really do. I think they're like one of my favorite teams, but they just have not looked good. And I just don't see it turning around unless they really make some changes. And I don't know if they will. I think, like you said, I think Vic's going to throw a few more. I think he's going to keep going down the road he's going, and hopefully they turn it around. But I think I'm going to go Falcons. Going to pull it out at the end like they have been doing every game. Even though I don't think the Falcons are the best team in the league. I'm not sure the Eagles can beat them.
All righty. What do you think, Lane?
I think the Falcons are going to swoop down, but the Eagles are also birds, so they're going to swoop all around. So there'll be a lot of swooping birds,
I agree
But-
with you.
a lot of claws and feathers. But
Yes,
I think
yes,
I think the
that.
Falcons will come out on top.
All right, the Falcons. All
You're
right.
the odd man out
I am the odd man out.
every game.
Let's see. And then the third game of the week is the Giants at the Cowboys. And it sounds like it's going to be some really big guys going against some guys wearing cowboy hats. So that's exciting. Some exciting stuff. But,
This one has no swooping,
yeah, no swooping.
but it does have some big guys stomping around.
It really does. But
awful.
the Giants at the Cowboys, I think this will actually be a really, really good game. The Cowboys went to New York and beat up on the Giants first game of the season, and they got to show off their weapons that they got on the defensive side of the ball. A couple of things to note, though. Sean Lee is out against the Giants this game, and so I think Bradshaw will definitely have a big game because it's interesting stat. With Sean Green out, they give up almost 5 yards a carry.
Lee?
What did I say?
You said Sean Green.
Yeah, I meant Sean Lee. With Sean Green out, no, but with Sean Lee, yeah, they give up almost 5 yards a carry, and that's just insane.
Yeah, I was going to put him in. It's hard with some of these defensive players to put in because they're just not as important to fantasy as others.
Yeah, that's
and So there were actually 2 or 3 defensive injuries of people that are out, and he was one of them that I didn't put in, even though he is a talented.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this
Player.
game is I think it's going to be an awesome game. And I do think the Giants have something to prove in this game.
I do too.
And I think the Giants are going to pull it out. But I do think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be like a 3-point game. It's a really good team that is finally getting. Like I think the Giants were underdogs, even though they won the Super Bowl last year, because no one has faith in Eli and stuff like that. And everyone's had questions about Cruz. Nix has been hurt. Well, they've proven that they can do it. And then the Cowboys, no one's ever going to have faith in them unless they could win the Super Bowl and people still like Romo ain't shit.
That's
so
true.
I'm taking the Giants, but I think it's going to be super close. What do you think, Eric?
I think the Cowboys have just looked awful.
They
So I have a
have.
really hard time picking them. Even though I don't think they're as awful as they've looked, I do think they'll come back and not look that bad, but I still am going to take the Giants.
All right, Eric's taking the Giants. What do you think, Lane?
I think with all that swooping going around from the day before, there's going to be a lot of leftover wind gusts, a lot of leftover wind gusts blowing around the stadium, and I think that's going to blow that cowboy hat right off the Giant, and that Giant's just going to be in tears without that hat, and that hat, he'll be on his journey across the wind. So I'm going with the Cowboys,
Oh,
Going
They-
with the Cowboys. Look at Lane.
keeping it fresh,
Keeping it
real,
funky
That just kept
fresh.
going.
telling it like it is.
Yeah, now here's one that I think me and Eric are going to differ on. The Saints
we
at
won't.
Broncos, a Sunday night game. Another game that I'm thinking will be just awesome. Like I think this game is going to be close as well. It's going to be like 45-42. It wouldn't surprise me too.
110 to 103.
Yeah, 37 touchdowns. What? But I think the Saints are on their way back. I think they've looked sharp. I do
they
think,
have looked sharp.
and like I said earlier, I think they're going to shred the Broncos defense. The Broncos defense hasn't been great against great teams. So, and that's the thing is the Saints have had their issues, but it isn't on the offensive side of the ball. So I think the Saints are going to come out, and I think they're going to win the Broncos at home. But I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a good game. What do you think, Eric?
I cannot believe that Peyton Manning turned me into a Broncos fan.
I
It
know.
hurts.
It hurts all of us.
I've always disliked the Broncos, and all of a sudden they get one player, and I'm now their
You
biggest
do
fan.
love Peyton Manning.
I do.
You do like this Topanod.
And I own him in both leagues. But this is a tough one. This is so tough because the Saints really have looked a lot better.
Yeah, they have.
I'm going to go Broncos. It hurts. It hurts.
It's a deep burn.
It really is.
What do you think, Lane?
Well, the Broncos have a better win record, but if there's anything I know about a saintly team, it's that when they don't care about the material world. They don't care about the material horses trying to buck them off, like being a rough Bronco like they are. So I think the Saints will stay mounted for 8 seconds and they'll come out with the win.
Oh boy. Saints are going to break the Broncos, huh?
I like this. I want Lane to do this every single time we do games. I want him to just take the teams and just do... You didn't do Buccaneers and Vikings.
Well, you got some Buccaneers and you got some Vikings. They're gonna
Pirates.
fight. They're gonna fight. There you go. that's what Buccaneers and Vikings do. They get real loud and scream at each other and get real drunk and like rah.
Word.
Vikings and Buccaneers.
Word. All right, and we're going to move to our Monday night game, the last game of the week, 49ers at Cardinals. And this is going to be a super defensive game. And I don't know, do you think they've had a decent amount of time since because they played Thursday Night Football last week, and then, right, the 49ers did?
Yeah.
And then they're going to be playing Monday Night Football. Do you think they've
Taking a
had
long
enough
break,
time to
yeah.
prepare Alex Smith to be an actual quarterback again? Because he has looked bad.
Should be better than Skelton.
Yeah, that's true. And that's
Unless they get Tebow. If they get Tebow, I'm going Cardinals.
Oh my gosh.
So we may have to update this later if they randomly trade
Yeah,
for
if they
Tebow.
get Tebow. All right, but the 49ers, I think it's a battle of two great defenses, and I think the 49ers have just got a slightly better defense. So I think the 49ers are going to win this game.
I do too. I can't pick the Cards.
What do you think, Lane?
Well, I can't think of anything really clever for this one, but
Yeah, they're gold mining
They're-
and a
yeah,
bird.
and the birds are trying to steal it, but they ain't gonna steal that gold
There we go.
from
Oh,
these
there it
pan
is.
and miners. So I think the game will pan out for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, there it is.
Yes, nailed
it.
That's the only. I'll have to use that every single time for the 49ers.
Nailed it.
That a boy, Lane.
You were worried it wasn't going to work out, and then it ends up being the best one.
Just take it. All right, and that's the games of the week. So now I think we're going to look at a couple of questions that we have gotten.
Yeah, we got a few minutes to answer some of your questions.
All right, and a question I got earlier this week was, let's see, it was like, all right, it was a guy asking about in his flex if he should start Josh Gordon, Stephen Ridley, Felix Jones, or Brian Hartline. And on this, I think I've kind of made it apparent how I feel about Felix Jones. I don't think he's a great running back, and I do think that he's still kind of banged up, so I think they're going to go to Banner a lot. And Hartline, I can't say Hartline because he had a bad game. He had a 0-point game before their bye. Now they're off their bye. They have they got their new receiver in there. Now, who did they pick up, Eric? Jabbar Gaffney. So I think they have just another mouth to feed. And I think RT1 is used to
Dwayne
him.
Bowe may go there.
Yeah, you never know. And that's the thing is, and RT1 is comfortable with Brian Hartline, but I think Hartline, if you look at it, he's had some big plays and stuff. He hasn't had a lot of touchdowns. So I think even though he's had a strong season this far, I don't think he's guaranteed to do great. And then Josh Gordon, another guy kind of in the same boat. He's had a few good games in a row, but you kind of have to look for the big play with him. And so I think Stephen Ridley is going to be the main guy there, like he has been. And even with him working the other running backs in, he's still getting the majority of the carries. So I think you got to start Stephen Ridley there.
It's hard because he looked really good for a few weeks, and I started to get really excited, and then he's kind of dropped off a little bit. And the Rams have an okay defense against the run, but I do think he's the best player out of the bunch.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's the thing. And this was a question from B Hunt, one of our guys that asks us quite a few questions, is at ChurchBoyWSU on Twitter. So I don't know if you want to look him up or something.
He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's asked us a decent amount of questions.
And then we had one coming into the chat, but I can't seem to find it.
Let's look that up.
And it looks like our chat room
Here, I'll
died.
repost it for you here. Hold on.
Here, I got this up over here. And the question was James Jones, Felix Jones, Sean Green, or Rashard Jennings at flex. And he's
Never mind, I won't post it up for you.
leaning towards James Jones, but he'd like some feedback.
Which I'm actually playing James Jones in my flex, so it shouldn't be an awful play.
Yeah, I have a hard time because I'm like, I kind of want to say Rashard Jennings because he's going to be getting all the work, but I don't think the Green Bay's defense is as bad as people are saying, but they are missing Woodson, and so I don't know. I think Jacksonville is not a great team, but I think they're not as bad as people think, so it's a hard one there. But I think James
they're
Jones
kind of right in the middle of the pack, so it's not like they're not going up. Jacksonville is a pretty decent defense against wide receivers, so
yeah.
it's not a solid pick to play James Jones and expect him to get good points. But
So I definitely say
Rashad Jennings.
Well, Rashad Jennings hasn't done great, even though he's had opportunities. Sean Green definitely no. Felix Jones definitely no. I think it's between those two. I think it's kind of your preference. James Jones is one of those guys who could come out, and his average yards per catch this year has actually been kind of down. I think he's around 10, and he's averaged like 14 for his career. So he's getting smaller plays, but a lot of that is he's getting more plays to him with Jennings out. So I think the safer bet, I think you're probably right to go with James Jones unless you want to take a chance and start Jennings because he'll be getting all that work. But I think James Jones is definitely safer.
Green Bay is kind of right in the middle as well with running backs. So it's kind of... I'm starting James Jones over someone.
Over someone.
I think Steven Jackson.
Oh, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
But yeah, our chat room died. Justin TV has issues.
All right, no, but we also... one other question I answered for Church Boy WSU on Twitter, the guy that we were just barely talking about. He asked, "What's up with Vernon Davis? I'm really considering starting Heath Miller over him this week." And and I told him, I was like, Miller has the better matchup this week.
He does.
But that's the thing is they're both top 5 tight ends this season, and I think Davis has a higher upside, but Miller's slightly above him right now points wise. And so with having both those guys, I have a lot of faith in Miller.
I do too.
I think Roethlisberger really likes going to him. I think he's a safe underneath guy for him. And I think it also helps open it up for their long plays later because they have to worry about Heath Miller. So I think you keep Heath Miller and see what you can get for Vernon Davis. I think you can get someone solid for Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis is a lot more of a name. Vernon Davis was picked as a top 5 tight end coming into the season.
And
Miller
he's been
was like
pretty good.
top
He has
15.
good enough stats that you can still... He's not one of those like a Brandon Lloyd that just dropped off the face of the planet and you're stuck not being able to trade. Vernon Davis, you can actually get something for him. So it's a good... I like that. Let's do it.
Yeah, awesome.
Let's do it.
All right, and it looks like that is all the time we have for today. We'll let you go.
Enjoy the game.
Adjust your lineups if you still can. You still, I think, have a couple minutes. Enjoy the game.
Come on to our website, do our poll, ask us questions. We will
you can
answer
leave
them.
questions on the website. You can leave them on Twitter at Fantasy Top 5.
We even have a Tumblr if you're into that.
Yeah, we have a Tumblr if you want to
We post fun stuff on there. We posted an awesome picture today of the Rams mascot and the cheerleaders doing an Abbey Road Beatles thing because they're in London. So
yeah, and that's the thing
go
too
check
is
out
on
that
all
picture.
this stuff we like hearing from you guys. We like a lot of the comments you put out there. So if you come follow us, we'll follow you, and we'll maybe repost some of your Tumblr photos if you're on Tumblr, some of your cool messages you put up on Twitter. But yeah, I think that's it for this podcast. We'll see you Monday at 5:30.
Yes, we will.
I'm Sean.
I'm Eric.
Peace.
Out.